Oh shoot. This whole intersection is closed down, dude. What the heck? In that detour? Lego. Baby girl's got some get up and go. Alright guys, it's a little overcast, but it feels freaking amazing out because today we have a high of 69. So guys, today's gonna be the start of what I think is gonna be a new series that I'm gonna call The Mind of a Menace. I kinda like that name. I think it fits what's going to be going on here. If you're a little confused as to why, let me clue you in on a little bit of this.
Well, tonight, a News 6 investigation into a biker troopers say is putting you and your family in danger.
RPSTV. His antics on Central Florida roadways have turned him into an internet celebrity.
RPS? Anyways, I'm just gonna get right into it. So the other night, super bored, just about to go to sleep, and I was like, you know what? I think I'm gonna throw on a TV show on Netflix and just watch something. So I popped up in my Netflix app, and the very first thing that popped up, the trailer for The King, right at the top, huge stuff. I was like, sweet, what is this about? Maybe it's a really cool TV show. I could throw the first one on and drift off to sleep, catch up on the rest. And that's when I saw the runtime of 2 hours and 20 minutes. So of course, I did what any responsible adult would do. I said screw sleep and I full screen that shit.
A king has no friends, only followers and foe. A new chapter of my life has begun.
So going into it completely blind, I really enjoyed the full experience going into it with no clue and no expectations. So if you want that same experience and no spoilers, stop this video right now, go watch it, and come back, and you can start right where you left off. Where's this dumb girl? Look at her. She got so scared because she's looking at her phone instead of driving. She rolled her window up. She rolled her window up because it scared her. You doofus. Now that you've watched King, welcome back. So just stumbling upon it on Netflix for the first time and having seen no press, I had absolutely no idea that it was a modernized version of a historical drama that Shakespeare did called the Henriad, where it has multiple acts going over the king's lives. I know, I live under a rock. Feel free to flame me in the comments, all you theater and history buffs. Yes, I did say history. I didn't mean to, but it did. So I watched the entire movie, couldn't go to sleep. I was sucked in. If you didn't know what was going to happen already because of history and or knowing anything about Shakespeare, like me, then you were open to the surprise that was the end. So after being so inspired by the movie that I couldn't sleep afterwards, I really wanted to dig in a little deeper and talk about it with you guys. So I did a little research and I put some of my ignorance to rest here. So what is The King? In brief, it's a historical drama based on William Shakespeare's Henriad, starring Timothy Chalamet as Prince Hal, the reluctant heir to the English throne. Driven by his hatred towards his father, King Henry IV, the young prince leaves royal life behind to live among his people, and at his side his only friend and mentor, John Falstaff, a middle-aged, battle-worn drunk.
You're wasting good wine.
When his tyrannical father dies, Hal is forced to bear the weight of the crown that he never wanted.
You will not inherit this crown, nor have I sought it.
And navigate the politics, war, and deceit that comes along with it. Please hold for twisties. It's Florida, guys. This is the best we got. First off, The King is shot beautifully. The cinematography is great. It's directed and written by David Michôd, as well as co-written by Joel Edgerton. In my completely irrelevant and unprofessional opinion, I think these guys killed it. The King is well put together and took me deep into the story of a king who truly and genuinely wanted to be a good king to his people. There may be people out there who weren't super happy with it because they were familiar with Shakespeare, but coming at it without any of that going on, I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. Also, you have to understand that considering they have 2 hours to smash the Henriad into this. He was not trying to capture entirely Shakespeare's acts. The pacing felt perfect. It never felt bogged down or rushed by the dialogue or trying to cram too much of Shakespeare in it. I know that sounds terrible when you hear it, but honestly, I believe it was tastefully done and it still captured the heart of this character-driven story. Now, finally, jumping into my favorite part, which is Hal's character.
Now I find myself the king.
When Hal takes the throne, he stands before his father's counselors with this statement.
You shall suffer the indignity of serving me, wayward son you so revile. But know now you'll be watched over by an altogether different king.
At this point, you know that Hal has his own convictions, that he hated the tyrannical rule of his father, and that he wanted to be a different king. Not much later, he tells his Chief Justice that he desires to end the current strife in his kingdom. And in showing his intention to contrast his father's tyrannical rule, he tells his Chief Justice,
You shall let these men know they were my father's enemies, not mine.
Hal learns very quickly that being the king is met with a burden of expectation to prove his strength and greatness to not only his council, but to his kingdom, and also the kingdoms around him that are looking to see what this young king will do.
Look around that table last night. They have their own kingdoms behind their eyes.
When a new king is throned, other kingdoms will generally send gifts as a show of faith in their rule or as an offering of congratulations. But when he is taunted by France with the gift of a ball, meant to poke fun at him for being so young or just a kid, Hal, sticking to his convictions, responds publicly in front of everybody with class and dignity. He responds with, I shall keep this gift.
This one is sent only for me, the boy I once was.
For the boy that I once was. And comes off actually as the wiser. This was just the beginning of my growing admiration for Hal's character throughout this story. Later, in private, his Chief Justice insists
The bowl is an insult to you and to your kingdom.
and that it wouldn't be out of the ordinary for him to respond with force. But Hal, holding on to his convictions, responds with this. Remember where, as a prince, I wiled and how I spent my days?
Drinking, clowning, so is there not some truth in this jest?
Hits the Chief Justice with another zinger, dude. In another scene, Hal sits down with the, I think, priests, and they are going on and on about how they believe that the France throne is illegitimate, that there is a reason because of the bloodlines of this or that, that king shouldn't even be on the throne. After hearing him babble on about it for a minute, and understanding that the priest's intentions were clearly to go to war with France or to find a claim to France's throne, Hal cuts him off with this.
Finding this story impossible to follow.
Front with your father's long-held ambition.
I am not my father. Would have thought this to be clear by now.
Yet again, holding to his convictions and trying to show everybody around him that things are going to be different. At this point, his council, his Chief Justice, the priest, people around him are feeling uneasy about the change of power and are beginning to second guess his competency as the king. The Chief Justice, thinking he has the kingdom's best interest at hand, decides to take it into his own hands and try to manipulate Hal. Hal is then brought before an assassin that was sent from France, and alongside the pressure and influence of the Chief Justice and his council around him, this assassin forces Hal to think a little more seriously about how he needs to respond to France. And through each one of these scenarios, from an outside perspective, both his council, his kingdom, the people outside of his kingdom, as well as the people viewing this story, are forced to think, are his ideals and convictions naive? Yes, they sound great, but can it be done? And when he's forced into these different situations, you start to feel that maybe his council, maybe his Chief Justice, and those around him are right. Maybe if he doesn't stand up for his kingdom, he will be hurting his kingdom rather than helping it. Earlier in the movie, prior to taking the throne, Hal actually went to battle one-on-one with his life on the line for his brother's sake.
Very good.
His brother was actually completely against it.
Why are you here? Come to see it stopped. This is my battle.
He thought that Hal was taking his glory from the battlefield because he wanted to go to battle as the leader of the army. And Hal stopped that from happening.
Prince Henry challenges him to settle today's score, man on man. He and I, we will fight in our army's places.
For his brother's sake. And Hal, regardless of how his brother feels, believes that this is the right thing to do. So he does it anyway, puts his life on the line, and fights to the death and try to save his brother from a bloody battle. So Hal, not being afraid of a fight, doesn't want to go to battle unnecessarily. But Hal, being a king for the people and is influenced by those around him, believes this is what the people want. He decides to put down his own convictions and unite them under common cause. So he declares war on France and begins his siege. Hal, through all of his experience on the battlefield, always composes himself as a man of character, even when in the face of a Delphine who is mocking him.
I mean, no, your balls must be big, no? With the tiny cock.
Through these sieges and battles is actually where you're going to see Falstaff's character come to life. Falstaff constantly having the simple understanding of the battlefield or the wisdom to say nothing at all. Even keeping Hal at one point from going down a path that he and Hal both knew were not who he wanted to be. And we all gotta have friends like that.
Surrender to me!
I cannot do that.
Let us make famous this little village of Agincourt.
On me!
But after an amazing battle at Agincourt, a victorious Hal marches onwards. Hal now sits before the King of France, King Charles VI, aka the Mad. History says he was a little loony.
Maybe mad, but he's true.
And accepts King Charles' offer of his daughter's hand in marriage as a symbol of peace between France and England. A fairy tale ending fit for a king, right? Wrong! Hal, back in England, sitting across from his beautiful French fiancée, she challenges him with some simple questions, and in those questions, every bit of Hal's achievements and motivations are unraveled right before his own eyes. And it's in that moment that Hal realized, I don't even know that I could explain to you how epic these scenes were. Just check this out.
Do you feel a sense of achievement?
In what regard?
In any regard.
In such a short conversation with just a few simple questions, she unravels everything, man.
Why did you bring war to France?
Your father came on spoiling. He sent an assassin.
There was no assassin. There was no plot to kill you.
As she asks him these questions, he tries to defend his actions and his motivations.
The assassin then was sent by your brother.
My brother. My brother was too stupid to conjure such a plan. What was your true reason?
Did you know of the ball he sent?
He brings up the ball, which he himself said was a silly jest. And man, did it hit like a ton of bricks in my chest when she smirks at him and just asks, "A ball?"
A ball? He sent to you a ball.
Why should you question my intent?
She was like, that is the silliest thing. You could have gone to war and killed thousands of people over. She completely destroys his disillusioned success. Doing so, his only defense and motivations were the reasoning that his counsel and Chief Justice gave him. She basically asks him why, and he responds, well, the throne of France is illegitimate.
Your father's rule is illegitimate. He has no right claim to his throne.
All monarchy is illegitimate. You yourself are the son of a usurper. It would seem that you have no explanation for what you have done. Before me now, all I see is a young and vain and foolish man so easily riled, so easily beguiled.
Zing! And it all settles in Hal's mind in that moment. That everything he did was against his own convictions in the end, even though it was motivated by his wanting to do right for his kingdom. In the end, he betrayed himself, and he was betrayed by those around him. The next scene in this movie is so freaking good, dude. He repays his Chief Justice for the betrayal, and once he's taken care of his untrustworthy Chief Justice, Hal returns to his fiancée with only one request of her.
I ask nothing of you, only that you will always speak to me clear and true. Always.
I will.
I'm no expert, but in my completely irrelevant, non-expert opinion, The King was worth the watch. The story of a king who stepped up reluctantly, aiming selflessly to help his people, betraying all of his own convictions, betrayed by those he trusted around him. If you haven't checked it out yet, I highly suggest you do. I'll give it a solid 4 out of 5 revs. All hail the king! You know we gotta get one of those in there. Anyways, I love you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of The Mind of a Menace. Might be doing more things like this, diving into just some random things that I like to talk about, ranting on about different things with you guys. Maybe new things I've learned this week. Who knows? Who knows? We're gonna keep doing the regular RPSTV edits, of course, so you're gonna keep the classics rolling. But if you liked this episode, I've really been wanting to do something different, change things up, add a little more value to a new series, and I think this is what we're gonna do. So hopefully you guys liked it. Let me know in the comments what you thought about it. Did you like The King? Is there something else you think I should watch? Is there a book I should read? What kind of thought-provoking material are you getting into lately? Hit me in the comments what you liked, what you didn't like, future ideas you want to see on the channel, maybe in a Mind of a Menace episode. If you're interested in supporting RPSTV further, make sure you hit subscribe, smash that like, scroll on down, check out the description. I got all sorts of links and fun stuff in there. And just next to that subscribe button is a join button. Once you click on that, it'll tell you all the benefits you get for becoming a member of the channel, and that supports RPSTV directly. So thank you so much to all of you guys who are members. Other than that, guys, I love you. I'll catch you in the next episode of RPSTV. Later.